Mario Mignone is a distinguished service professor and director of the Italian-American Studies at Stony Brook. He's the editor of the Forum Italicum, one of the most important literary magazine or journal in North America. He established the Alphonse D'Amato Endowment for Italian and Italian-American Studies. Besides, he is well known in the community, and he has received many awards and recognition. Some of them would be the Sons of Italy in America, and also the Italian government in Italy, so he'd be technically a Cavaliere. And he's the author of numerous scholarly papers and several books. Some of the books we have today, and we will show them to you. But he lately has written an autobiography of himself, and autobiography is enough. And we will be talking about that. In the last interview that I had with him, we spoke about how extraordinary his family was. In that interview came out that out of 8 brothers, each one of them became an MD or a PhD. And so with this book, autobiographical book, we will find out what happened, why they gained such a success in the professions. And saying that, I'd like to welcome you, Mario.
Thank you, Vito. It's really a great pleasure to be here and to have this chat with you about my books, certainly, especially the last one, which is very close to me, but also probably it's also very close to you.
Of course, the public ought to know that we met in college, during college years, and we have remained friends ever since, so it's about 40, 45, 50 years.
It is one of those relationships that, you know, it's both ways, and we say that when you meet a good friend, you keep for life, and that's what happened in this case. We have been friends now for over 50 years.
I'd like to show the people the books that I have. This is, I think you gave it to me when you published the first book. This was a book that I think it was your dissertation.
Well, it was originally was the work of a dissertation. It was revised and prepared for a book. It goes back in 1972. At that time, the author, actor, playwright, Neapolitan playwright,
he was still alive.
Still alive, and I had the fortune really of meeting him several times. I was lucky that when I did my research, I found an article in which the American playwright Thornton Wilder indicated that he considered Edouard de Philippe his favorite living playwright. So I wrote to him, and he responded with a tremendous letter explaining why.
But in Italy, I think after Pirandello, De Filippo is one of the top one, right?
Yes, I would say a major playwright of the 20th century. In fact, he worked with Pirandello, and he produced also a few plays with him. So yes, we can say that as a playwright, he enjoyed
this book here, the second, Italy Today, what is this about?
Well, I've been teaching at university a course for a long time on Italy, contemporary Italy. And after a few years, I was not happy with the books that they were on the market. So I prepared
it as a textbook.
I prepared my own book. Actually, this is the second edition, and then there is a third edition that is, I believe, much better.
So your students study this?
My students use the last edition, certainly, but it's used also in many universities here in the United States as a textbook on contemporary Italy.
Is it just of interest to the Italians or Italian-Americans?
This is, actually, I should say that Italy today is very popular. In spite of what we read sometimes about the Italian government, that is not, stable sometimes. It gives the impression, at least, of not being stable. But Italy is very popular outside the world. And at Stony Brook, when I teach a course, I have an enrollment of 200 students.
200.
And when I walk in the classroom, it's like walking in the assembly of the United Nations. You see all the students from different races.
And this one is also about a year ago you published this?
Yeah, I was invited by the Library of Congress to work on this book. It gave me a great pleasure. It is a book on the Italian-American experience. And yeah, it's a visual history, but also at the same time we tell a story of the Italian-American experience in America.
The title is interesting. What does it mean to you?
Explore immigrants and citizens. Actually, we go back from the first Italians arriving over here. Certainly, we start with Columbus. But Columbus, as you know, was not the only Italian explorer that came to America. There is a long list, and so the first.
So basically, these three words indicate Italian immigrants.
The second part of the book has to do with immigration, with the big immigration, certainly the exodus that took place at the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century. In fact, as you know, at the beginning of the 20th century, the Italians constituted the largest group of immigrants coming in this country.
And
then the last part is the Italians becoming part of the mainstream of America. And yes, I should say it's a success story because it deals really, after so many obstacles and hardship, the Italians finally made it, and that last part of the book deals with the success, really.
Now, this last book, this is the just published.
It's a book that came about 9 months ago, came out. So, yeah, it's a book, certainly it's very close to me. Every book, it
is an autobiography, I would say.
Every book is a type of confession, certainly, because it reveals a lot about yourself. But in this case, it's really a public confession.
Now, the cover page of this book has a picture of a family. Is that your family?
It's my family. When after a year we arrived to the United States, my father had these great ideas to take family pictures. I don't think it was not even for an occasion. He said, let's take a picture. So
maybe the camera can take the picture?
Eventually, the children and grandchildren will have a picture of the family at this stage. And this was at the beginning of our stay here.
Now, I would like, because we spoke about the last interview about how extraordinary your brothers and sisters are, 8 children, all became MDs and PhDs. I would like to identify briefly who they are. I think it's important, at least for me anyway. Let's start from the top here.
That's my sister Maria, and she graduated from Fordham.
University.
Yes, Fordham University, and she taught in high school for many years.
And this one?
That's me.
That's you.
That's me. As you know, we went to City College, and then I proceeded to go to Rutgers for my PhD. And then I've been at Stony Brook since 1970.
And now this fellow?
That's my father. My father,
What's his name?
Joined us, Roberto. He joined us a year later for reasons that you know.
Later. And this one?
That's my mother.
What's her name?
Palmina.
Palmina.
Yes.
And this one?
That's my oldest brother. He did not come with the group when we came to America. He came later.
Okay.
But
he is a medical doctor.
He's the first doctor in the family, and certainly that was a big achievement for.
And this one?
That's my brother Nino. He went to City College, then went to New York University for dental school. That's Matilda. She also, as she got a PhD from New York University, and she teaches in one of the universities.
And these younger people?
That's my brother Biagio. He found his own way out to get his school paid, so he went to City College, and then he went to medical school. I enrolled in the ROTC when he was in college, and that helped him certainly
Okay,
to achieve.
and this the youngest?
That's my sister Agnes, and she's still teaching. She has a master in education, and she's still teaching. Yes.
And this one?
And that's my brother Dominic. He's the youngest of the boys. By that time we had discovered America, so I didn't go to City College. There's nothing wrong with this college. We are very grateful to City College, right?
We will be
the Harvard of the public
But he became
education.
an MD.
But he went to Cornell, and then he also became a doctor, yes, an MD.
Okay, all right, so we met each one of them, and now that we have, see, the title of the, it says here, the, what is it, the story of my people. It's an unusual, usually I would expect to say the story of my life, because it's autobiography.
It is not the story of a man, it is not my story. It is the story of my people, it's not even the story of the story of my family.
So in other words, you give emphasis to the story of my
people.
family.
That is people that really were part of my life, or that they shared my same experience or our own same experience. That is immigrants' experience.
Of course, the subtitle is an interesting one. From rural southern Italy to mainstream America. We will be talking about it a little later on this one, but I think it's important. Now, what I thought I knew you for over almost 50 years, so I know everything about you. But in this book, I learned that you actually came from a very humble beginning on a farm. You were born on a farm?
Well, we grew up on a small farm, actually. It was not easy to make ends meet. So we were 8 children. My father certainly had to work on a farm. In those years, there was no use of machinery. Everything was done by hand.
Did you work on the farm?
Well, I helped, especially during the summer, certainly, but also during the year when there were tasks to be met, and my father did not hesitate, especially if he didn't see us studying. There was no such thing as free time, frankly.
No free time.
No free time. As soon as he saw that we were not studying, if we were studying, he would not have touched us. But the very moment that we were free, hanging around, man, boom.
Do you remember any of the tasks you did?
Oh, gosh. Well,
just about everything?
Vito, it was a small farm. They were self-sufficient, so we produced actually everything that we needed. And so from the goats and the sheep and the chickens on a farm to
really,
to a cow that.
So
that we had.
Well, life was not easy on the farm. Usually it isn't.
Usually it isn't, and in our case it was I would say particularly difficult because it was not a very productive farm. It was on the top of a hill, and as in farming, you have to deal with nature.
And so the weather. I remember the place where your father had the land, it was called Petrara.
Actually, my father was born in that area, Petrara, and then
Petrara means stony ground, stony land.
Yes. And then we moved to a name that I don't know does not reveal really life on that hill. Gran Potenza, but the advantage was that it was very close to the city, and we walked to the city. In fact, I did my elementary school in the city, and there were no means of transportation those years. There was no school bus.
You finished the elementary school?
I finished the elementary school up to the high school.
Where in
Benevento.
Benevento. Now, Benevento is the capital of the region.
Well, Benevento is in Campania region. As you know, Campania has 5 provinces: Naples, and then there's Salerno, Avellino, Caserta, and Benevento.
So before you left for New York, you only knew that city.
Well, I
you
knew,
were still a
I
farm
knew
boy.
that city, and I knew another city, Caserta, very close to Benevento, where there is a royal palace of the Kingdom of Southern Italy. And I went there when I was 16. I was already thinking what to do with my life. So I saw a poster in the city while going to school announcing the possibility of applying for a Air Force Academy.
Ah, you wanted to become a
And
pilot.
so I passed, and these things start to tickle my mind, So next day I took the information
You applied.
and I applied.
And the results?
So they called me for a physical, and the physical was in Caserta, and that was the first time I took the train by myself going to Caserta. I talked about that in the book.
Did they accept you?
No, that's why it was good.
Yeah, but your brother, I think we're trying to see the difficulty in Italy, why people leave. Now, your brother also applied to Carabinieri.
Yes, so we, being
Young and
the oldest of 8 children, we had to think about what to do and how to make really room in the family.
So he applied for...
And he applied for ufficiale, for an officer in the Carabinieri. And
paramilitary school, I guess.
Yeah, and they too was not accepted. But in those years, Vito, it was very competitive. You had to really have some kind of support, recommendation, and push. In fact, when I went to Caserta for the physical, for the Air Force, on the train I met a bunch of kids coming from southern Italy, Bari, Brindisi, Lecce.
They all came there.
They were all going to Caserta. So, it's, I believe there were about 400 positions, and we must have been probably 5,000-6,000.
In Italy at that time, and maybe even today, if you don't have, you're not recommended.
Yeah, I learned that. And but I was trying. I was trying to already explore things. So, but fortunately, America came through. Yeah.
So, what happened? Your family came to America as a family.
We had our relatives over here. My grandfather was here. My grandfather, my grandmother, and 3 of my uncles and aunts. And so my grandfather sponsored us. Immigration was reopened again on a quota system. As you know, there was a quota. In 1953, my grandfather did the paperwork for 2 of his daughters in Italy. And my aunt got a visa within a year. And we were not able to get the visa for a long time. Remember that this was 1953, 54, 55.
7-8 years.
So we were able to get the visa in 1960.
How old were you when you came?
I was 20.
Oh, you were an adult already.
I was an adult, so that's why when we speak English, Vito, it's you can detect from our accent.
Yeah, I guess.
Who came over here younger, even if you not look our age, okay?
Yeah.
Certainly my youngest sister.
They lost the accent.
She was 4 years old, so she doesn't have any accent. And then the next one.
Why did your family decide to come to America?
Vito, it's.
I mean, after all, your father had a piece of land. You had also a house that he was very proud of.
Yes, and this was certainly for him. There was a big, when he came to the United States, it was very difficult because he had, always been on his own independent. But for us, it's in the southern Italy, we could not see outlets, and so I say at the beginning of the book, when I left, really, I felt bad, but. I was not crying because eventually I knew that I would have left anyhow.
Now, your mother and all of you, the children, came all together, but your father did not. Why? Can you tell us?
Well, this, again, it took 6 years, and we had a passport, willing, hoping, and praying to come. But it was not happening. And we knew that we start to suspect that something
Was wrong.
was wrong. Yes, and we found out when my relatives came to Italy. They went to the American consulate, and they found out that there were some compromising information over there. Well, it was the MacArthur's years, so in the United States they were very concerned about communism, and we found out that someone had sent information to the consulate that my father was a socialist. My father, even today, I can say that he was not a socialist. However, his brother was, and his brother was very active in the Socialist Party. I assume that they, by deduction, they figured that, well, if the brother is very active in the party, and he was a principal in the school. Wow. It's out of those big differences in Italian families sometimes that some children are given the okay, the possibility to study.
So you came to America, but your father did not.
My father did not. So
something very similar happened
and my brother did not, my oldest brother.
But he didn't come for other reasons.
Right.
What's the reason?
The reason was that he was already in medical school in Italy.
And so he did not.
I was enrolled over there, and the family, smart, I must say, good decision. Allowed him to continue the medical school.
Well, at that time, many American students also went to medical school in Bologna.
Yeah. But for us, it was really a big, gigantic step because it was a family of farmers. And when you are down there, Vito, and you look up, and what you think that the aspirations, the dreams, it's either to become possibly a doctor, or even a lawyer.
Tell us about the last day when you left Italy. Your father had to rent a bus.
Well, my father, in those years, Vito, when you emigrated,
it was
somehow
forever.
You had the feeling that it was for good. And so he allowed some of our relatives to come along to the airport. And I had also two friends of mine coming to Rome with us, to see us, living. Yeah, it's the picture that I'm referring to in the book at the beginning. Described to everyone in that picture.
And you landed in JFK?
Yeah, it was, the jets were just coming out, but certainly my father could not afford the tickets with the jet. He was, I must say, he was very proud of the fact that
you came with
didn't have about money to pay the tickets for 8 people. But we came with the DC-10. So, we flew in the clouds. It took 6 hours from Rome to Shannon. We landed in Shannon at night, middle of the night. We were lost in that airport. And then after about 45 minutes, we...
Did you adjust soon once you came to New York? Where did you go to live?
In the book, I make reference to the difference between my trip and my grandfather's trip, and the people of his generation, those who came to the United States at the beginning of the 20th century. Very different experience, certainly.
In fact, you do show when there was the separation between your grandfather and his father on the road. Maybe you could tell us about that. Was a moving and very unforgettable kind of picture. My grandfather also came from a farm. They were probably a little bit an edge above us in terms of property owner. Mm-hmm. And so my great-grandfather was having people to work on his farm. And he was very upset that his son was leaving. Meanwhile, he needed people to work on his farm. And so in those years, they were living by the hundreds, okay? And he accompanied him walking
towards the station, which was about 8 miles away. And he was with a group of paesani
They
living
were
for
coming to America.
yes, living for America.
So at one point there was the separation.
At one point, he put down the suitcase that he was carrying for his son, for my grandfather. He says, "Okay, good luck, you know, help each other." And
He turned around and he went
he
home.
turned, and he left. And my grandfather turned around and looked back with the hope that his father would turn away,
He
turn back. But it didn't happen.
Did they ever meet afterwards or never?
Yeah, because my grandfather came to America with, like many other Italians in those years, with the intention of coming here for temporarily to make some money. And
So you did go.
And to go back. And
Tell
so
me-
he went back and forth for many years.
So
Many.
where did you go to live here in New York, in Manhattan, or New York, I guess?
When I arrived, my grandparents were living in the Bronx. In fact, at the very end of the Bronx.
North Bronx.
Yes, 242nd Street.
And White Plains
Almost in
Road?
Westchester, almost in Mount Vernon. In fact, we did most of our things in Mount Vernon, in Westchester. My grandfather had been able to buy 2 buildings, 5 families apartments, and we went to live in one of those apartments, small.
Small.
In fact, I must say that
Say
the
it.
space was smaller than what we had left in Italy. And I
So it
was
was a step
wondering.
down, but it was a
I
step-
was wondering. I said, what did we do over here? You know. In fact,
It was the
one.
tenement houses, I guess.
Yeah, it was a 1-bedroom apartment. So we were living, some of us of the boys in the living room, or in the opening couch. And my sisters, actually, my older sisters, 2 sisters went to live with my grandparents because actually there wasn't enough room in our apartment.
So what happened? Did you go to work or or you went to school?
Vito, I did both actually. I didn't speak English when I came over here. Yes, I knew a few words, but
Yeah.
not that I could really allow me to conduct a conversation, communication. So I was 20 years old. I knew that my grandparents, yes, they were generous to host us, to feed us, to give us the apartment.
But it was time for you
also a
to-
sense of responsibility, you know. And so I didn't wait till that they say, "Hey, wake up." Okay, so I knew exactly what I was supposed to do.
So you went look for a job.
So after 4 days, we went looking for a job.
4 days after.
4 days, I followed my aunt, and we went in Mount Vernon.
What was your first job?
Well, I would have taken anything, and that's what I did. I took the first job that I found in Mount Vernon. I don't remember the street now, but there were a series of factories, and she just walked in, the first one, inquired, and I was like a little pet, really following.
Sure. 4 days.
And then we went to another one, and then finally the third factory. They said, "Well, we can use."
What they doing?
Well, I talk about that experience in a book. It was
Kind of
for me,
industrial.
it was really a tremendous experience. No regret, really. It molded my character in a way.